And here we go. Hello, this is Eduardo from the Ivory Tower. I bought this new microphone since some months now. However, my cough prevented me from making videos. I had a very persistent cough. I still have it, so apologies if I will cough from time to time. However, I am quite confident in the fact that this microphone is very good, and it also has a pretty neat mute unmute button, so I will probably try to maybe mute when I have to cough, so apologies. Today I wanted to make a video about the results of our magic and how to to theorize what is the best way to understand how the results are manifested, how we can measure them. Basically a magical theory kind of video. So I wanted to talk about, especially of course, since I specialize in this, astrological magic and the power of what we manifest and how to better understand how we can maximize the power of our manifestations, of our magical results. In the end, it's always about magical results, right? So, I mean, why do you do magic if you don't pay attention to the results and if you don't have results? No reason to do magic other than role-playing, right? So, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is basically the power of our results based on the offerings and the value of the offerings that we give to the spirits. So it is no secret then that many occultists say that you gotta give if you want to get. So you take what you give, you receive what you give. So basically it's a give and take kind of balanced act, especially when we are talking about, having a rapport, having, an exchange with spirits in the metaphysical world. So many occultists are of the opinion that if you give 10, you will receive 10. If you give 1, you will receive 1. If you give 100, you will receive 100. No more nor less. That's the balanced way of looking at things. Also, no coughing up until now. Wonderful. Yeah, so this is one way of looking at what we do. And in this paradigm of seeing things, of course, you gotta understand that we need to understand what is value, what is meant by value, and how value is measured. What is value? So, there's people that ritualize and make spells and stuff by, I don't know, dancing or just by praying, or maybe reciting a poem. This can be seen as an offering. Your gratitude can be seen as an offering. Yeah, and of course then we got the actual value of stuff like sacrifices, like incense, candles, materials that you give to the spirit, maybe also materials which have some sort of correspondence to what the spirit has to do. Here we go, first cough. So, I don't know, I saw a guy on the internet using swords for a martial spirit, like an offering, like buying an actual sword and leaving a sword on the altar of this Mars spirit to, get martial results. I saw people dancing for Venus, Jason Miller actually talked about a guy asking if physical exercise for a martial spirit can be seen as an offering or not. So it depends on what you see as, as an offering, because these things can be seen as offerings in a way. Or if you want to be more traditional, you can leave something like to eat, to drink, especially in traditions like hoodoo, Santeria, and stuff like that. Offerings like alcohol are appreciated, but you have to be careful because you can attract the wrong kind of spirits. Food also is a valuable offering. And yeah, of course, we have the omnipresent incense, which is also thought to give the spiritual quality to the space that you're in, and to also spur the spirit in the direction that you want, it to go. So if you want something more serene, tranquil, more calm, maybe an incense which has a lavender aroma can be something that you want to do. If you want something more violent, something like, I don't know, myrrh or dragon's blood, which are martial kinds of incenses, are better, and so on and so forth. And of course, if you want to achieve a stronger result, then you may want to give more incense, more food, more liquids like water or alcohol or, I don't know, fruit juices, whatever. Candles. The offering of light and heat from the flame of the candle can also be energy which the spirit can use in this first paradigm that we see, and of course that we're seeing right now, that we're talking about right now. And of course, since we're talking about the astrological magic kind of way of doing things, these offerings should be given when you are making and consecrating the talisman. So during this fumigation, you would give these offerings to maybe boost the amount of energy that the spirit can put into the talisman to influence reality in a stronger way. This is the first theory. Of course, you would suffumigate also the talisman, so the suffumigation, the incense, are necessary for the spirit, kind of like to highlight the item, the talismans that you want the spirit to consecrate, or the item that you want the spirit to consecrate and make astrological talismans. And of course, on top of that, once the item is highlighted and can be seen better in the astrals by the spirit, because you have suffumigated it into the appropriated correspondent incense, then you would also give the offerings to further boost the energy that the spirit puts into the talisman. This would be the first paradigm to see how strong and how this kind of interaction between the spirit and the energy that it puts into the talisman go, and how much potent and how much strong the talisman can be. So in this paradigm, of course, it makes sense. It would make sense. And the microphone is clipping a bit, so I'm gonna lower the volume. Okay. In this paradigm, it makes sense to give as much offerings and as much appropriate offerings, and the more valuable the offerings are, and the more offerings you give, the stronger the talismans will be. So of course, the potency of the talisman depends on the election, but also on the potency and the quantities and the value of the offerings that you would give. So the second paradigm would be that basically the talisman's power, only comes from the celestial factors involved in the election in the moment you're making it. So, in this kind of paradigm, the tightness of the aspects, and I don't know how much the planet is rising or culminating or conjunct an angle, or other planets, would be factors that you would factor in to, understand how strong the talisman will be. So for fixed star talismans, for example, how much the moon is actually conjunct the degree of the star onto the ecliptic, the stronger the talisman will be. And, if the moon is making also aspects to other planets, such as Venus, the Sun, or Saturn, or Mars, etc., the strength of the talisman would also be correspondent to how much these aspects are tight, how much the orb of these aspects is lower. The lower it is, the better. And of course, it must be applying, because we don't consider separating aspects up until to a point. I will probably make a video about separating aspects in talismans. But anyway, in this paradigm, the tighter an aspect it is, the stronger the talisman. The more angular a planet is, the stronger the talisman and its capacity to act and manifest things into the world are. So, yeah, that's the second way of looking at things, of measuring the power of the strength of the talismans. The third way would be actually more of a modern kind of seeing things, because the power of the talisman would be coming not from these factors, but from the intent and from the energy, especially the emotional energy coming from the operator himself. So in this paradigm, the stronger it is, the stronger your intent is, the stronger your emotions. And Michael Offek gave a great presentation on this in Astromagia recently. So the stronger the eros that you're feeling, the stronger you feel this emotion at that moment of the making of the talisman, the stronger the talisman will be, in a way. Now, this can be seen in different ways. This can be seen as you having a stronger link to the spirit of the talisman, and maybe the spirit taking more sympathy in you, and therefore, just like somebody that you are in their graces, just like somebody that likes you in real life, they would be more willing to manifest for you whatever you asked, and in a stronger way, of course. Or this can be seen as you connecting to the spirit. Sorry. And this energy, this emotional energy in your consciousness, in a way warping reality, in a way that this item, which is the talisman, becomes stronger and stronger based on, in correspondent, in function of how strong your emotions are. So this would mean that the intent and the consciousness of the operator, just like, contemporary magicians tend to think, which are not traditionalists, which are, contemporary magicians, very much influenced by, the Aleister Crowley and the chaos magic is all in your head kind of model of magic, would tend to think. I'm not sure this is personally that it's the way things work. I think though that intent and emotions and the eros that you feel when you make talismans have a big role in the contacting of the spirit. So once you contact the spirit, I think that it's the actual spirit that infuses with their own energy and their own quality the talisman, and your emotions are only used to contact the spirit, like to light up in the astrals, attract attention of that kind of spirit that you want to contact, that you are invoking or praying. And once you stimulated its attention and it comes and it's in the space you're in as a magician, and you can feel it many times, then the potency, I think, that comes from the strength of the spirit. But this is another paradigm still. Actually, this is the fourth paradigm that I wanted to talk about in this video. And it is the power of the talisman coming from the spirit and its power, its ability, and from the ministry which he was assigned to by God itself, himself, themselves, whatever. And in this way, again, there are two ways of seeing this, because you can see this in a quantitative way or in a qualitative way. The quantitative way would be that astrological magic is just a way to use the currents of, this sublunary world, of the astral world that manifests into the sublunary world, kind of like a filter, but also as a way to supercharge your magic. And so a spirit that would be contacted during the best astrological conditions is not hindered, but it's, on the contrary, he's helped by those astrological conditions to manifest whatever you want it to manifest. And so, of course, if you want to get something solar, you would call a solar spirit during an opportune astrological time which favors solar influences. And so the quantitative way of looking at this would be that the spirit has a certain amount of power based on, the amount of time people and years that people have prayed to it. So the amount of energy that people fed to it during, the decades, centuries, millennia. And you would get a correspondingly powerful talisman. So if you were to call a solar spirit and make a solar astrological talisman of that spirit, you would get the maximum positively possible results and the strongest results that you could get with that spirit. So if that spirit has a potency of 100, let's say, you could get a 95, 98 to even 100 potency in that talisman. If you call, an archangel or a deity of the sun, which is associated to the sun, and they have a power level cap of 1000, with the appropriate astrological conditions, you could get to that 1000 quantity of power into that talisman. So based on the entity that you call, the election just works as a kind of filter to to either hinder or let completely let the power of the spirit be expressed at its maximum power. And of course, the stronger a spirit is, the stronger the talisman will be. Now, the second way of looking at this fourth way of looking at things is the qualitative way, in my opinion, which is when you make an astrological talisman, no matter what kind of spirit you are using, basically you get similar results. Sometimes you get incredible results, sometimes you get similar results. However, it seems that people use astrological magic for all kinds of solar deities. Sometimes you use Helios, sometimes you use Apollo, sometimes you use just the sun. Sometimes you use Raphael, if you're of the school of thought that Raphael is associated to Tiferet. Sometimes you would use Michael if you associate it to the sun. Traditionally, you would just make a talisman of the sun, so you would invoke the sun. But people with the same election tend to get similar results, and even throughout different elections of the same planet tend to get, a mean of similar kinds of results which are of that particular quality. So in this case, no matter what you do, basically you are creating something which shapes reality based on the qualities of that election, but always inside of that 1/7 of reality that God assigned to that archetype, which, it's one of the 7 planets. So no matter what deity you use, if you make a solar astrological talisman or a Venusian astrological talisman, so if you make an astrological talisman of Saturn or of Mars or of whatever, Mercury, you will always get results which are similar to other people and which are, mediocre, intermediate, or good, but always inside of that qualitative kind of window. So you would get always the usual things for Mercury, like, becoming better with your mind, uneasiness in finding information. So finding information is easy, your intuition gets better, you tend to get books and books and books and books and more information, and people contact you to give you information that you wanted. Your way of doing magic will become better, and so on and so forth. And this is the way that a Mercury talisman, in this case, for example, manifests for me, but also for other people. 2 or 3 or 4 other colleagues, so to speak, of astrological magicians that I know of and that I asked, about the results with Mercury talismans and also other kind of talismans, reported the same things that I experienced, basically. And also, thinking about it after a while, maybe I didn't notice some things that they made me notice. And once I noticed them, I was like, wow, yeah, that's true. So that is the way that a Mercury astrological talisman manifests results. That's the way a Venus talisman manifests results. That's the way Saturn talisman manifests results, and so on and so forth. So in this paradigm, the quantity and the value of the offerings, as also the materials used for the talisman, are they assume kind of a background importance. They are not as important as the actual quality of the spirit itself, and of the astrological election. So of course, unless you ask for a specific thing. If I'm talking about making generic astrological talismans, so if you ask for a specific thing, that thing has to be under the dominion of the planet that you're contacting to get it. So of course you wouldn't ask for love to Saturn, for example, or for money to God, I don't know, the moon. You could get it, but how? I don't think you could get esoteric secrets from Venus. Maybe the esoteric secrets of the magic of love. I don't know. But I don't really think that you would get much results. So yeah, in this paradigm, the quality trumps the quantity. So you would get average results, which is, by the way, what happens in the majority of times when you make astrological talismans, and they would have that quality of the planet that you are contacting. And no matter how many offerings you give, no matter how emotional you are, how much energy you raise, how much intent and how much you believe in what you're doing, no matter all that, It's you basically make an astrological talisman of that planet, and you're gonna get those things. And if you're fortunate, and maybe the election is particularly good, and you are in a period of your life where you are, I don't know, you gotta get some windfall of some kind, or you're about to change your life into the better, that talisman can work with what's happening, and nudge and shift the probabilities of you getting even more of what you're about to get, so that you get in the end extraordinary results. And of course, the sphere of influence concept, which comes from Rufus Opus, comes to mind here. So the more bridges you have, so to speak, into your life for the things that you asked to be brought to you by the spirit, the stronger your results will be. Of course, the usual example is wanting love or sex and staying in the basement of your house because you don't like hanging out. I mean, how are the spirits of Venus supposed to bring you what you wish for if you're always, if you cut all bridges, so to speak, into your life to manifest that? I mean, what can happen? Maybe some girl sees you on Facebook and contacts you on Facebook and tries to hit on you, or one of your exes contacts you because you are more attractive, or the spirits of Venus kind of nudge her to contact you. I don't know. Maybe that could be a way that the spirits of Venus could work to give you what you want. But of course, you are going to have much better results and stronger results, and a much higher probability of manifesting them if you put yourself into life situations which enable you to get those results, to get those things that you asked for. So in this example would be to hang out more often, saying yes when people ask you to hang out, visiting places, having a hobby that you can share with people, following, I don't know, conferences, art events, going to clubs, I don't know, going to events of all kinds, and just putting yourself out there so that the spirits of Venus can work to give you what you want. In the same way, if you have Saturn talismans and you want more esoteric wisdom and you want to know more secrets, why don't you, if you always hang out, and if you're always having fun, and if you're always, watching sitcoms, or I don't know, training, working out, and working, and if you have no free time for yourself, and if you don't, take the hints when somebody tells you, oh, I read this book has those things, and it's very good for astrology and for all these things. If you don't take those hints, if you don't take those opportunities, if you don't isolate yourself to a degree to study these things and to take all these opportunities to become better and to know more about these things, to study and to read and to talk about these things about people, with people, how are you going to manifest? How are the spirits of Saturn going to give you all this esoteric wisdom? Through dreams? Do you even remember dreams? Intuitions could be. Are you really sure it's your intuition and it's not some thoughts? It's very freaking hard to train your intuition, by the way. So yeah, you gotta put yourself out there in situations that enable you to get what you want in a stronger way, and to collaborate and take the opportunities that the spirits give to you. So, of course, all of this brings us to the fifth way of looking at things, which is, kind of a mix of everything that I just said. So, based on the thing that you're doing, yes, of course, there is a personal power. The raising of the cone of energy in witchcraft, there is a power in celestial elections, in astrological magic. Spirits have a different way of doing things, different abilities, different ministries, different specializations, and different powers. Yes, they have different, they are at different, steps of evolution. So some spirits have a way of looking at things. The whole collectivist versus individualist, Jason Miller, angel versus demons kind of paradigm also is useful in this way of looking at things. And also using the natural power of the materials that you're using. So the Albertus Magnus way would be to just making a talisman and fumigating it, and that's it. And just by the virtue of having been made at that astrological moment and having those materials which respond to those stars, you would make a perfectly working talisman, which has the natural and the celestial properties of the planets, and it would work according to him. So there are many ways of looking at this. There is also the way of seeing talismans as batteries that you charge, and then you have to recharge them by praying the spirit or putting energy inside of them. I don't know. There are many ways of looking at this. And there's also the way of combining the first and the fourth way of looking at things, which is basically combining the power of the spirit and the power of the offerings. So basically the skill of the spirit comes to the foreground, its power comes to the background, because the power is supplied by the value of the offerings that you give. So if you want to have love, you would call a Venusian demon, for example, and the quantity of the offerings that you would give would direct the actual quality of what the spirit is doing and boosting it in potency. So if you were to call an archangel instead, like Anael, which is the archangel of Venus, you would get a perfectly equal intensity and potency in results, but the quality of it, the things that you would get, would be influenced by Anael and his specialty. So basically, I don't know, maybe a demon would force somebody to be with you, and maybe the archangel instead would direct this energy in a more collectivist, ethical kind of way of doing things, which is basically finding a person which is free and which would be a very good match for you, and then directing things in your life and in their lives so that you can meet and have all the possibly, the best conditions to meet and to be together and to form a relationship with this person, which would be the ethical way of doing things. Still, another spirit, maybe Venus or Aphrodite. Well, yeah, you see, the Roman Venus and the Greek Aphrodite would give different results, because Aphrodite is completely different, and it's more of kind of more seductive, more individualist in the way of doing things. Venus is more it's softer. So these are two different deities, but the intensity would be the same. It would just be directed at different kinds of results. So if you give offerings that amount to 100 of value, you would get 100 of potency in Venusian things based on what spirit you are contacting. So the demon would get 100 potency to do what he can do best. The archangel would do those things that he wants to do. with always that 100 potency. Or if you wanted to use a deity, again, like Venus or Aphrodite, they would use that 100 amount of potency still to give you Venusian things, but in their own individual ways, which of course depends on their ministry, on their mythology, on their specialty, what people prayed to these entities for, and how much time people actually did that, so that they actually specialized in doing that. So yeah, that's it. I think I covered all the points. So again, there are many different ways of looking at this. Yeah, I could complete the video by talking about my paradigm and how I see things based on my experience and the experiences that I have gathered from talking also with other astrological magicians. And my way of looking at things would be that it's more of a qualitative way that things are done. Basically, there's people like Christopher Warnock, which only uses metals. There's people like Clifford Lowe, which they are really, really strict on the technical side of the election, as opposed to Warnock, and also really strict to the materials that are used. So the gemstones, the herbs, the metals. There's people that do both. There's people that use paper or glass or materials that people like Clifford would say don't work. Christopher Warnock would say that you have to reconsecrate paper talisman every month because they lose their power quickly. There's other people that say that once you make a magical item and you consecrate it, that's it. It just doesn't have an expiration rate. It must be destroyed for it to cease its functioning, So even if you make something in paper, it's gonna be lasting forever. Talismans don't come with an expiration date. So there's people that say that talismans do expire and they last more than other magical items maybe, but they do come with an expiration date, such as decades. And talismans of fixed stars lasting centuries, according to some passages of the Picotrix and what people say in the tradition. Did they really have a talisman which lasted for 60 years, and were they really there counting the years and seeing how the effects manifested? I'm not sure. Were they there for fixed star talismans lasting for centuries? Not even human life lasts more than, I guess 120 years if you do everything right and if you live in a remote island with no stresses and perfectly good unpolluted air and food and I don't know, good genetics. Maybe if you're a cultivation master, you could live for one of those immortals, like what Buddhists and Taoists talk about, and you could live for hundreds or thousands of years. I don't know, maybe these people do exist, maybe they do not, we don't know. But back on topic, we don't know if astrological talismans actually expire. How do you... I don't know. Yeah, again, back on topic. Probably, since all these people get results, and sometimes they get wonderful results with mediocre elections, mediocre offerings. Sometimes they get mediocre or null results with incredible elections, incredible materials. You know, sometimes, you know, it's about the relationship that you have with the spirit. Some other times, instead, the spirits seem to be robotic, technical, cold, distant, more like informatic systems or computerized energy in the astral, which, you know, give you weird results based on the election. Sometimes they seem intelligent, and sometimes they seem, it seems like they actually know what you want. Sometimes they give you exactly what you ask for, which is not what you wanted. So it's very freaking weird, and in the end there is much more research to be made, to be done, to know more about this. Probably it is the fifth paradigm. Probably it's a mixture of all of these. So it's probably about your relationship to the spirits. It's probably about the amount of offerings that you give, which, by the way, influences the relationship that you have with the spirits. It's probably also about the occult properties of the offerings and of the materials that you use in the talisman. It's probably also about, well, of course, it is in big part about the celestial conditions of the election that you make the talisman inside of. It's probably about the deity you're calling, or the spirit, or, well, you know, the entity that you're calling to consecrate the talisman. It's probably also about your intent and your emotion, but probably only to actually contact the spirit and call the spirit to do the work. Yeah, so probably to better, you know, in conclusion, at the end, if you want to close the circle, it's probably best if you add a little bit of all of these into your magical practice. So good offerings, good materials, a good election. You gotta have intent and emotion to contact the entity, although not, you know, it's not probably not necessary. Although the Picatrix also talks about this in one of the first chapters. It talks about not having any doubts and having a strong, you know, faith that what you do will be brought to an end successfully, that you will have success. So probably, you know, not so anachronistic, not so far-fetched, that intent and your energy, your eros, your emotions are important in a working, even in traditional stuff like astrological magic. And also, it's probably also about the actual entity that you're calling, their ministry, you know, what they have under their dominion, and also their potency. So it's probably a combination of all of these factors. And if you want to get better at your craft, I suggest you follow these things. And, you know, if you got anything else, you know, any suggestions, please leave a comment so that we can become better and better, and, you know, bring this tradition back to its former glory, and, you know, maybe finally, like the Picatrix says, behold miracles. So this has been Eduardo Costa. I'm going back to my Ivory Tower right now. By the way, it didn't cough anymore. Yeah. So success for now. As always, I am selling talismans. Go to my Facebook page at Eidos the Ivory Tower, which is called the Ivory Tower Project, or just the Ivory Tower. Go to the shop tab to see my shop. If you don't see it because Facebook is kind of wonky lately, just, you know, go to the URL in your browser, and where it's written Eidos the Ivory Tower, add a slash and add shop. Just write shop and then press enter. You know, by the way, I am linking it right now into the, I'm pinning it at the top of my page. So if you want to see the talismans that I have for sale, click on the pinned message on top of my Facebook page to get to the shop. I also do 1 hour and a half hour consultations of all kinds, tarot, astrology, of course, more modern than traditional. Or if you want to talk with me, you know, you can contact me there, or you can join me in the Telegram channel. I also have Bitchute, so you can reach me there. If you're not watching this on YouTube, but you're watching this on Bitchute, then you already know. Yeah, so that's it. I will now go back again to my Ivory Tower, and plenty of good things and new talismans coming up. I have made a batch of, you know, different batches of different talismans. I've got a great ton of Saturn talismans, Jupiter talismans. By the way, Saturn talismans, we won't be able to make these until 2039. That's 13 years since for Saturn to reach Libra. So yeah, Jupiter will be able to make them like in 3 years when it enters Cancer. So yeah, and also I have some Sirius talismans. I got many talismans. I made many different talismans. I will make videos about them, and also with the experiences that I lived thanks to their spirits. So again, thank you for being with me, and I hope this video helps you in your path and in your craft. Goodbye.